Okay, first, let's show just a little bit of a demo of what this will look like when we're done, and we can automate our Resolume using stems real time from the stream of audio. Let's take a look. All right, so we're going to talk through using this cool tool, AudioSlice, that we've created, and using that for Resolume, and the ability to make it audio reactive to stems that are happening live in music that you've never heard of before. So there's no time coding necessary. It just kind of works. So let's see what's up. So first off, very important, you gotta have Black Hole installed. And that is a way that you can pipe in audio. You can also have something like Amoeba Loopback. But the point is that when you click play somewhere, that audio has to get to this program somehow. And so what I actually have, if you look at my setup, is, for example, what I'm playing out of right now is this device, headphones plus Black Hole. So as you can see, I'm going to be playing, I'm going to be hearing it in my headphones, so I can hear it here. And then with Black Hole, AudioSlice can also hear it. So I'm also using OBS, so of course when I click here, when I click here, you're going to be able to hear that audio as well as this app. So let's take a look at AudioSlice. So it's this cool little app, and hopefully you can see it here as a little icon. But basically what happens is when I click play,
the Holocene has ended.
I'm basically getting readings for not only the audio, but the bass, the drums, other, which is everything else, and then vocals. And as you can see kind of down here, it runs very quickly. So this is more than real time. This is about every 11 milliseconds is how fast this thing updates. And we're going to use that to control Resolume with. So let's see how the hell that would work. So basically the way this all works is off OSC. So if you go into Arena and we take a look at our preferences, if we go to OSC and we allow OSC input, you're going to see that there's an IP address and an incoming port. Now, if you're running this on the same computer, you don't even have to worry about the IP address part because we can just put a localhost thing in. I'll show you that. But if you were running this, say, on a different laptop because you had one up near the DJ booth, and you had like an audio line running out, but your actual VJ equipment or laptop was in the front of house, then you could do that as long as you were over Ethernet or Wi-Fi, that kind of thing. But so really, we need the IP address and the port. So if we go back and we open up VJ Lab, what we can do is make sure our audio settings are on the correct thing. So for input, default here is what's selected on my Mac, but you might be more precise. You could put Black Hole in here, and then if we do this, we can see that it's still working, right? So, great. You also might want to have the drum bass ducking correction, but you can kind of play with that a little bit, and we can talk about that later. But then you go to the outputs, and that's kind of the main game here. And what we can do is create a new output, and this is basically going to say, when we receive audio in, what do we do with it? So we can edit that with a little gear, and let's just call this Resolume, and the protocol is OSC, and we can just leave this as localhost. And instead of 8,000, remember, we're going to have 7,001. And I like to drag this guy, basically just kind of click and hold, but I would drag this down as fast as you can get it. This is not going to eat your CPU, GPU. This is very, very, very fast and very efficient. So that'll give us a nice, nice snappy kind of response to it. And then when we go and we add inputs, you can click this little plus button. You can see that if we select drums, then we're going to get this little lane that will kind of show us. So let's go back to our track. Awesome. And if we stop it, you know, the waveform stops as well. So how do we use this in Arena? Well, let's take a look. So one thing we could do, maybe we want our first deck here, just kind of random footage one. There's a lot of different things we can do. So let's just kind of click play on that first column. And we can see we have 3 layers here. They're all playing at once. And what we might want to do is let's just take something easy. So let's have it, let's look, instead of, you could automate down the layer or the composition, but let's just take a look at the composition for now. Maybe we actually want to do something like this sort of little twitch, and that could look kind of cool on maybe, you know, kind of thing on drum hits. So what we can do is actually you press Shift Command O, or if you forget exactly what it is, just, you know, go up here to shortcuts and you can say Edit OSC. I'd recommend remembering whatever this is, because it's useful to just be able to go back and forth, right? But let's do that, and then if we just go ahead and click on, say, this Twitch thing, we can get the OSC input, and we can literally just copy that, and we just paste it in here. And then what we can do, if we go back, is maybe we just view this output, and we kind of take a look here at what's going on if we press play. Now, frankly, that's a little too extreme, honestly, for my taste. So what I really like to do is to kind of adjust the range. So if we go back in here, we see this, we can see that the output range of this is going from 0 to 1, which means basically full throttle, right? So this, at the maximum power of the drums, is going to throw this twitch all the way up. But sometimes subtle is better, so let's take a look at that. Much better, honestly. You'll also notice that there's a smoothing factor, and that basically says how long to smooth it over. So let me just play that and kind of show you what this waveform looks like, because that waveform is actually what's happening to this Twitch dial, right? So. So as you can see, as I move that back and forth, you're going to get a more, like if I smooth it over a longer period of time, it's going to be sort of a slower, like easier, more gradual thing. It's also less, you're not going to have as much noise, right? If I slam this all the way down to, 0 milliseconds, that's straight from the model, and that's going to just give us a little bit more noise. So for drums, I found something like, 22 to 30 milliseconds to be pretty good. Whereas, if I were to add, say, something like vocals, I tend to find that that's a bit better to throw up more around like 45 milliseconds or something like that. But it's all taste. So let's go back to our output and kind of like figure out what do we want to automate next. Again, I'm sticking with these easy dashboard ones, but really like you can see just if I click this, like basically any of these parameters. I guess audio wouldn't really make much sense, but we can even do the opacity of the layers. So we'll do that in a second. But let's kind of, what would happen, like what does it look like if we were to sort of adjust the trails slightly, if we were to do that. You can see it a little bit. If I go all the way up, it's sort of like we get this weird effect. But that's pretty cool, actually. So maybe what we could do is on the vocals, we could have those do their thing. So if we go back, we say vocals, O again, Shift Command O, we copy that, and literally we just paste that in there. Cool. What else could we do? Another thing I tend to like, I really love using the bass automation. So perhaps what we could do, what does this look like if we sort of have this? Yeah, that's a pretty cool effect. It basically spreads the R and G and B channels. And I think that could look pretty cool if we're on like a chorus or sort of a bass section. So why not? Let's add it in. So let's take this, we click there, we copy once again that OSC input, and then we throw that back in there. And for this one, let's try something a little crazy actually. Let's make sure that only if it's been up for quite a bit of time do we want that bass to sort of really start adjusting those R, G, and B channels. So let's try that. And then another thing I would really urge you to play with, because it's honestly a really great effect, is automating the layer opacities. And the reason I say that is because it's nice to have elements of your composition drop in and out as things are actually, you know, happening in the music. So this gives you a little bit of space when there's some silent sections, or at least a relative amount of space where you can even have it be fading to black, you know, if you really liked. Maybe let's just demonstrate what the most extreme version of that is, and then we'll back off a little bit. So let's actually just do that for the master, which is kind of crazy, but like let's see how that would work. So that's kind of a cool effect, but maybe let's, you know, not do it for the whole composition. Let's actually just do it for, say, this layer. And you gotta be careful when I click this. You can, you know, be adjusting individual video opacity, but I really would do something more like, oh, actually that is probably what you want. There's also selected layer, so that's the thing to be careful of too. If you did selected layer, then it would be sort of a different thing every time. But if you do layers and there's one in it and it's hard coded, then you kind of know that it's always going to affect, you know, that individual one. So as we do this, of course, you're going to have to slide your master back if you want to see everything. But let's take a look at how that looks. And you can see that bass effect goes away when we don't have a bass, but it kind of comes back when the bass comes in. And again, that might be a little extreme. So let's adjust that just a tad. And boom, you get to go to the bathroom, or you could leave this thing kind of on all night and it's gonna kind of do what you want it to do, right? Let's take it a step further actually, and we can actually do something called autopilot, which is pretty cool. So in fact, for the composition level, it's really kind of as simple as doing something like this. And this is going to be gated either by the longest clip duration or beats or seconds. And yeah, that's going to kind of also give you a little bit of the feel that you want. So what happens if we wanted to make this change something specific, like every 4 measures? How would we do that? Because otherwise, you know, how long are these clips? Like, it's kind of random. And then, you know, if we were to do something like beats, and we had 4 beats, this is tied to a BPM that's not really part of our track. So luckily for you, we have another tool called BeatSage, which is pretty cool for this. So this tool is another little app, and you can kind of drag this around. But if I go to settings and I see it's black hole, and I select Ableton Link, you can actually see it's now synced. And so if we now play our track, we're now synced to the beat. And now every 4 bars, it's changing, which is really sweet because this is going to kind of move around randomly as we've set up in our sort of autopilot thing, which we just literally clicked one button. And then once we hooked up our beat tracker, BeatSage, we now have a way every 4 bars to simply change that next clip, right? So, you might have to play around with getting that sort of set musically. And you could kind of click the autopilot on sort of a downbeat. This app BeatSage doesn't quite yet have downbeat tracking, so it doesn't know 1, 2, 3, 4 from say 2 or 3 or 4. But still, every 4 bars, roughly speaking, it's going to be changing in sort of the way that you want it. So that's kind of a wrap up of what's going on here. And just in summary, like we have this app. AudioSlice, which is doing real-time tracking and splitting of stems. And what I can also do now is I can save this, and I can say, oh, this is, maybe I'll just save to my downloads, but I'll just say this is my cool setup. And if I ever want to load that again, I can just go and open that. And basically, boom, I'm going to get my settings back just the way that they were, including all my different smoothing and different settings and all this kind of stuff. So you can set this up at home, get it all ready, get ready for the gig, and when you go, you just have to plug in and set your audio settings to be the correct input device. And you can also play around a little bit with, there's an audio gain. I tend to want to turn that up pretty much as high as you need it, and you'll be able to see that in how these waveforms go. If they're kind of too short, you can sort of tell, okay, it needs a little bit more volume to really hear what's going on. And with that, we're going to be able to click on anything we want inside of Resolume and simply copy, paste that into a new lane. And now it's being automated by one of these stems, which are bass, drums, others, vocal, audio, and so on and so forth. Finally, we talked a little bit about how to automate the actual clips that are going on in your project using something like autopilot, which is the built-in Resolume way to do that. And we can select random, and we can even go to something like beats, and using something like BeatSage that will hook onto the beat that's coming through this. I should also mention, very importantly, this can work through audio input, or if you're at a gig where you don't have a line to master, which happens to me all the time, you can actually do this on microphone. And the mic actually, this will work. I would say for AudioSlice, it actually is not going to work that well. You really do need like a dedicated audio line because the neural network that uses it really needs that level of fidelity. But for this simple beat tracker, really, it's just, trying to detect that kind of sort of thing. So you can set that to microphone input, whatever the best is that you can get. And that's going to sync with Ableton Link to here. And as a reminder, if you can't see this link thing, you can always go to View and do Show Ableton Link, and that will go or disappear. So I hope this is helpful, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll put some links in the description of this video that can kind of show a little bit about how to use it and where to find it, how to download it. And if you're a creator making really cool stuff, please don't hesitate to hit us up. We do have a beta program, and we're happy to give you access and let you play with stuff. Just in exchange for showing us what you make and sharing that with others. So thanks so much, guys, and have a great rest of your day.